Good evening, everybody. My name is Wendy Sun, and here with me is my colleague Carl Prasadis, and we are the SAEM 25 Didactic co-chairs. Tonight, we will be demystifying the didactic sponsorship process. So didactics at SAEM annual meeting are innovative and interactive presentations that are designed to teach on a particular subject and can vary in structure from lecture to flipped classrooms to panels to small group discussions. Didactic sessions cover a broad range of educational topics and key categories and at all career levels. So when a presenter submits a didactic, they are able to list out both a primary and/or co-sponsor. Sponsors include all academies, committees, interest groups, as well as SAEM brands. Sponsorship serves multiple purposes. It is a method to highlight relevant content at the annual meeting. As you can see on the left-hand side, a didactic that is sponsored will have a badge of the sponsoring groups, and it will have the groups listed out in the title so it could be filtered more easily at the annual conference. Sponsorship is also important because it is a way to ensure representation of our academies, committees, and interest groups, and a way to signal important content for our SAEM members. Because of the importance in sponsorships, this year we have extended the period where group leaders have to rank didactics flagged for sponsorship for their group. The didactic platform closes on October 2nd, and the next week, during the week of October 7th, we will be sending out an email with all the didactics flagged for sponsorship for a group to their group leaders. Group leaders then have 3 weeks to get back to us on rankings. Then later on December 10th, didactic decision letters will be sent out. So in our email to group leaders, we will have a list of didactics that have been flagged for sponsorship by your group. What we would like back by November 2nd is a rank order of didactics in the order of importance to your group. Some groups do a lot of preparation work prior to the didactics deadline to help their members create a winning didactic. If you find that there is a didactic you want to sponsor, but isn't on the list, this is also the time to let us know, since sometimes the submitter may have forgotten to list a group as a sponsor. On the flip side, if there's a didactic on the list where your group would not like to sponsor, this is also the opportunity to let us know. Currently, each academy is guaranteed 2 hours of content, which means 2 50-minute didactics, 4 20-minute didactics, or 1 50-minute or 2 20-minute didactics. While the 2 hours is not guaranteed for committees and interest groups, and looking at previous year's data, we do have representation of all committees and interest groups who have submitted a didactic. Scoring by our subcommittee members, which consists of at least 3 scorers for each didactic, as well as ranking by the group leaders, in addition to a final didactic subcommittee discussion call, will determine the final didactic decisions. As group leaders, you have great responsibility and power, as sponsored didactics are around 2.6 times more likely to be accepted. A lot of this is thanks to the pre-work your groups do in mentorship and guidance and workshop of didactics prior to submission. So many thanks for your hard work. And with that, I will remind everyone of the didactic deadline, which is October 2nd, and ranking deadline, which is November 2nd. And the next couple slides are important resources to share with your group members. So this first QR code is a link to our webinar on how to submit a winning didactic, where we go over the scoring rubric and things like that. And the second slide, we have a couple QR links, one taking the user to the portal submission link, another to our best practices guide, and the last to our scoring rubric. And with that, short and simple, we are happy to answer any questions, and both Carl's and my email are also listed here should you have any questions.
Hey, Wendy. My name is Satish Ganaga. I'm the chair of the Palliative Medicine Interest Group. Hey, thanks for kind of walking through that process and giving me some clarity around it. Can I get some feedback from the two of you, maybe on best way to approach this, both from the chair perspective and also from my group's perspective?
Yeah, sounds good. So a lot of times, for interest groups, you guys don't have really objectives that come from your board. So it really ranges from year to year how many submissions people put in. But, as a interest group leader, if didactics is something that, is important to you guys and you want to advance kind of education in the specific topic, then the didactics is a great way to get really important information across and teach other, conference attendees of the value that, your specific niche within medicine, emergency medicine brings. And so a lot of times I think, interest group leaders in particular will encourage their members to submit didactics and ask their members to let them know when they have, and to bring up, like, sponsorship is something that's available in the portal, so that, when the time comes for you to rank the submissions, you can kind of get a good sense of what each didactic is about. Carl, do you have anything to add?
No, unless you had any specific questions about how we could be helpful to your interest group.
No, that was really valuable. And I do have one specific question. So our group has kind of been working on wanting to create a presence didactically at SAEM 25. And in an attempt to do that, we've kind of put together 6 to 7 submission working groups that are kind of going at it right now. I guess my question to you guys is, if we submit 6 or 7 and I ask them all to go ahead and put the palliative interest group as a sponsor, would I be sabotaging their submissions when I rank them 6 and 7 out of my own group? I'm just wondering what your thoughts are there. Or is that a secondary factor? Will the evaluation by the reviewers consider the didactic separate of our own ranking of it?
Yeah, so we have a really robust system for kind of making the final decision on acceptances. So each didactic will be scored by, 3 of our subcommittee members. So both the score and the ranking, and we do have a final discussion call will go into it. So by ranking the didactics, by no way are you sabotaging one didactic over another, as a score actually, and the content itself actually plays a big part in acceptances and rejections.
Okay, no, that's great. I just wanted to kind of I didn't want to advise them to put the palliative IG as their sponsor if I was hurting their submission by, if by the end we were ranking them lower per se. So sounds like that's not going to hold them back. Great.
No, definitely not. And as you can see from, like, this slide where we have the data, it essentially, like, if a group is sponsored, they're actually more likely to get accepted. And kind of how you structured things, where you created groups and you've really put in the thought and the hard work in ensuring that these didactics are really impactful. That plays a huge part in, in the value of the didactics that are submitted.
And then on that same note, about 4 of these presentations, we had been reaching out to other IG chairs to talk about co-sponsorship, just to create a broader audience, because you're right, palliative kind of is niched within the. So it's okay, and I should recommend to them that if they've reached out to these other palliative IG the other IG chairs and they're supporting, to go ahead and add both the IGs that might be sponsoring or co-sponsoring.
Yeah, exactly.
Great.
Every section has 2 sponsors that folks could list here. So unfortunately, you can't list more than 2. So, if there are any folks, kind of other groups that you're working with, please, list them as a co-sponsor.
Absolutely.
That would, because I think, when there are ever didactics that are kind of borderline scoring, if they are more highly sponsored, where 2 groups feel like this is really important content, then that does have so in the final decision process.
And then we've also kind of taken it on in hopes of getting a lot of involvement. We've been doing kind of a lot of panel submissions is what we're setting up, and our panel sizes have been essentially 4 or 5 people. I just want your thoughts on if 5 is too many, if the number should be closer to 3. Just would like to see what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, so one part of our didactic grading is actually your speaker mix and kind of speaker experience. So it really depends on how long your didactics are. So, for a 20-minute session, it wouldn't make sense to have 10 people, because then
Right.
you don't have enough talking time for kind of each expert. So, 5 speakers for if they're, if they come from different institutions and also at different career levels and, come from different regions, that would be like a really ideal speaker mix for like a 15-minute didactic.
Got it. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll also add that I think, being that you are sort of supervising or advising all these groups that are making didactics, it is probably in the group's advantage to have a discussion about what the content is and how they're sort of framing each of those discussions. Because, if I think like, although there might be some nuance in the submissions, if it, appears like we've got multiple panels focused on palliative care without like a clear delineation about how one's unique or different, they're probably not all going to get accepted. So it would be, I think, helpful to have them think about how can we make these unique, a variety of different presentation styles. And like you said, I think it's a great idea to pair with other interest groups to add a slightly different perspective.
No, thanks. That's really good advice.
Thank you so much for coming tonight. And those are great questions. It's so exciting to hear that you guys are workshopping your didactics.
We're trying. We're definitely
Nice
trying.
work.
So, yeah. And, I think our hope is even if the submissions don't get accepted this year, they're there to kind of improve for next year. Maybe we could platform them into other webinars for the interest group. So I think the effort, no matter what, has value. So, and then do you guys typically give some feedback to the submitters? And I know you guys are so busy, it's probably impossible, but is there a way like maybe when the dust settles after essay, like after when things settle down to maybe get some feedback that I could give back to my submitters and, kind of coach them up for next year?
Yeah, absolutely. Feel free to reach out to us. We can give you kind of the anonymous grader feedback.
Sure. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thanks, you guys. I appreciate you making the time. It adds a lot of clarity. And I think the message I'm leaving with tonight is I'm going to reach out to everyone in my IG and tell them, put us as a potential sponsor because it can't hurt, might help. Sweet. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. All right. And that concludes tonight. Thank you, everybody, for coming to join us.